Welcome back to Motivation Library. You know, where we like to dig into those really powerful ideas from books you might not have time to read.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
today, we are diving into a classic, The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Ooh, yeah. A fascinating one.
I think a lot of people hear Art of War, and they're thinking, okay, this is a military treatise.
Right.
It's about
Warfare.
warfare. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But its strategies have been influencing people
Oh, yeah.
way beyond the battlefield for centuries.
Absolutely. And not even just, military leaders.
Right.
We're talking about business leaders. We're talking about negotiators. Even artists have been influenced by this book for so long.
Absolutely.
Because it really is about outsmarting your opponent.
Yeah.
Right?
And not just on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
You can use this in any situation where you need to achieve a goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly relevant, I think, to any kind of high-stakes situation, landing a new client, navigating family dynamics.
Yeah. And so that's what I think is so fascinating about this book. But before we get too far,
Yeah.
let's talk about Sun Tzu himself.
Right. The author. Who was this guy?
This is a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even sure he was a real person.
Right.
Like, historians debate whether Sun Tzu was one brilliant strategist or, maybe a group of military thinkers
Right.
who compiled their knowledge into this book.
Oh, wow.
We
So
don't really know for sure.
it's either a shadowy figure or a secret society
Yeah.
of strategists.
Like a whole team coming up with these ideas.
That's incredible.
Right.
It really adds to the mystique
For sure.
of The Art of War.
Absolutely.
But even if we don't know who wrote it,
Yeah.
the book itself
The book itself is
Yeah.
undeniably impactful.
has had a massive impact
Yeah.
on the world.
Mm-hmm.
So to understand its power,
Mm.
I think we need to go beyond just that surface level.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of people get hung up on the war imagery and the language around battles and fighting, but what Sun Tzu is really doing is laying out a system for thinking strategically.
Yeah.
And that's in any situation.
Yeah.
It's not just about warfare, it's about how to achieve your goals.
It's a framework for thinking.
Yes,
Yeah.
a framework for strategic thinking
Excellent.
in life in general.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's get into the specifics here.
Let's do it.
Chapter 1 is all about laying plans.
Okay.
And this is something that I think
Yeah.
everyone struggles with to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm. Planning is hard.
Where do you even begin?
Right. So much goes into it.
Yeah. So how do you lay plans like Sun Tzu?
Well, Sun Tzu starts off by telling us to assess what he calls the 5 constant factors.
Okay.
And these are like the fundamental forces at
Okay.
play in any conflict.
Okay.
So the 5 are moral law, heaven, earth, the commander, and method and discipline.
Okay. That's a lot to unpack.
It is a lot.
It sounds almost philosophical.
Well, you know what it is?
Yeah.
It is philosophical in a way, but it all kind of makes sense when you start thinking about it practically.
Okay.
So, for example, moral law, this one is about having the support of the people.
Okay.
Right.
So having the support of your team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Having the support of the people around you.
Okay.
Heaven represents kind of the timing and circumstances.
Okay.
Right? Things that are outside of your control.
Right. The things you can't really count for.
The elements.
Yeah.
Right? Like the weather.
Okay.
And then you've got earth, and earth is the literal terrain.
Oh.
The advantages and disadvantages of the environment you're in.
So in a business deal,
Yeah.
Earth might be the current market conditions.
Exactly.
Or even the company culture you're trying to break into.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So, each situation is going to have its own kind of terrain or environment.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And then we get into the commander,
Okay.
and this is all about leadership qualities,
Okay.
right?
Makes sense.
So who is leading?
Right.
What are their strengths and weaknesses? And
Uh-huh.
then finally, method and discipline.
Okay.
And this represents having well-organized plans and processes.
Okay. So it's like not just having the right leader,
Mm-hmm.
but having the right structure in place.
Exactly. Having systems
Yeah.
in place to make sure things run smoothly.
Okay. I'm starting to see now how this goes beyond the battlefield.
Yes,
How this framework can apply to so many different things.
absolutely. And he doesn't stop there.
Okay.
Sun Tzu then gives us 7 searching questions.
7 searching questions.
Yeah, and these are questions to ask yourself,
Okay.
but also about your opponent to really analyze the situation fully.
Okay.
So, for example, which leader is more motivated?
Okay.
Which side is more disciplined?
Uh-huh.
Who's got better resources?
So it's like doing a SWOT analysis.
Exactly.
But for any interaction that you have.
It's about assessing a
Yeah.
situation
Yeah.
and understanding all of the different factors that are play.
And so this level of preparation
Mm-hmm.
helps you make smarter choices
It does.
in life and in business and on the battlefield.
Absolutely. Whether you're, launching a product,
Yeah,
negotiating a raise, or even just deciding what hill to die on in a relationship,
that's a good one.
Yeah. Choosing your battles.
Yeah, because sometimes knowing when to fight is just as important as knowing how to fight.
100%.
Yeah.
And that leads us perfectly into chapter 2,
Okay.
which is waging war.
Okay, waging war.
And this chapter, it's not about glorifying conflict.
Okay.
It's about understanding the costs of war.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because war is expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive in terms of resources, in terms of lives, and in terms of time.
Right. And, people so often rush into things,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a business deal
Yeah.
or a personal conflict,
Right.
without really considering all of those resources that are going to get used up.
Time, energy, emotional
Yes.
energy. Yeah. All of that goes into conflict.
Absolutely.
And Sun Tzu is really adamant about achieving swift victories
Okay.
and minimizing losses, because prolonging a fight,
Yeah.
whether it's in the boardroom or your living room, just wears everyone down.
Absolutely. So efficiency is key.
Yes.
You pick your battles,
Yeah.
you make sure that they're worth it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you execute decisively.
Exactly. And sometimes
Yeah.
the best way to win is to avoid that direct confrontation altogether.
Ooh.
And that's what chapter 3 is all about, attack by stratagem.
Okay. So this is where things get interesting.
Yes. This is what...
This is like the classic outsmarting your opponent
Yes.
scenario.
Classic. So instead of this head-on aggression,
Right.
Sun Tzu suggests using deception, surprise, and leverage to achieve your goals.
Okay.
So it's about being smart.
Yeah.
It's about using your brain
Using strategy.
rather than just brute force.
Okay. I like this. And he gives us some great examples in this chapter.
He does.
Like the story of Han Xin,
Yes.
who is this brilliant general.
Amazing general.
So tell me more about him.
Okay, so Han Xin, he wanted to capture the city of Wei.
Okay.
But instead of a direct assault,
Right.
he decided to use a little bit of trickery.
Okay.
So he made the enemy think that he was attacking elsewhere,
Okay.
which left their capital vulnerable.
So he created a distraction.
Exactly. He created a distraction.
That's brilliant.
And he was able to take the city
Wow.
with very little bloodshed
Yeah.
because he used his brain.
It highlights the power of being unpredictable.
Yes.
Right.
Of keeping your opponent guessing.
Yeah. In a negotiation, this could mean withholding information strategically.
Exactly.
Or in a creative field, this could mean,
Yeah.
surprising your audience with an unexpected twist.
A plot twist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see now how these military tactics can really be applied in a lot of different contexts.
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the art of war. It's a framework for strategic thinking that transcends the battlefield.
Excellent. So we've covered planning, assessing the situation,
Yeah.
and striking quickly or strategically. What comes next?
Well, next, Sun Tzu dives into a series of chapters that all kind of tie together.
Okay.
So we're looking at tactical dispositions,
Okay.
energy, and weak points, and strong.
Strong and strong.
Okay. And in these chapters, he's really building on the idea that you need to be adaptable,
Okay.
always assessing your own strengths and your opponent's weaknesses.
It seems like being observant is a key theme here.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't make smart moves if you don't fully understand what's happening.
You got to know what's going on. You
Yeah,
got to
right.
be aware.
Have surroundings.
And he uses these really vivid images to drive his point home.
He does.
Right.
He's a great writer.
Yeah.
He uses a lot of imagery.
Do you have a favorite example?
Oh, I love the one where he compares a well-timed attack to a grindstone crushing an egg.
Ooh, okay. Right. It's about knowing when to strike with force and when to hold back.
Right.
And wait for the right moment.
So that timing element
Yes.
is
Sure.
crucial.
Timing is everything.
It's like launching a product at the wrong time
Oh, yeah.
or bringing up a sensitive topic when someone's already stressed.
Right. The wrong time can just lead to disaster.
Disaster, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we see this in all sorts of areas.
All sorts.
Career decisions, relationships, even creative projects.
Absolutely.
Knowing when to push forward and when to
Right.
retreat.
Yeah, having that awareness
Yeah.
is essential.
So how do we figure that out? Was there like a Sun Tzu formula
Yeah.
for perfect timing?
Well, that's where chapters 7 and 8 come in,
Okay.
which are maneuvering and variation in tactics.
Okay.
Sun Tzu gives us a lot of practical advice in these chapters. The overarching message is be flexible,
Be flexible?
be adaptable.
Okay.
Right.
Go roll with the punches.
Exactly, because the situation is always changing. So
Right.
you got to be able to change with it.
He talks a lot about observing the enemy, right?
Yes.
Constantly assessing and reassessing the situation.
Mm-hmm. Gathering information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Staying aware.
So think about like navigating a complex project at work.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of moving pieces.
You need to be able to anticipate roadblocks,
Mm-hmm.
pivot when things change, and make course corrections along the way.
It's like you're on a ship,
Yeah.
right? You've got to be able to adjust the sails based on the wind.
It's almost like he's saying, be prepared for everything to go wrong.
Yes.
Because it probably will at some point.
At some point,
Yeah.
something will go wrong.
And that ties into his warnings about what he calls the 5 dangerous faults of a leader.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so what are those?
So he talks about things like recklessness,
Okay.
cowardice, a hasty temper, oversensitivity to insults, and being overly concerned for your troops.
Okay, so even good qualities
Mm,
taken too far can become weaknesses.
can become weaknesses.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Right.
Yeah, because being overly cautious
Mm-hmm.
can make you miss opportunities.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can be so afraid to make a mistake that
Yeah.
you don't do anything at all.
And being too attached to your plan
Yeah.
can make you blind to other options.
Exactly. You're so focused on your plan
Right.
that you don't see that maybe there's a better way or
Right.
that the situation has changed.
Wow, this is really making me think about my own decision-making process.
Yeah, me too.
I could definitely see myself falling into those traps.
Oh, we all do.
Yeah.
I think that's the value of exploring these ideas.
Mm.
It helps us become more aware of our own blind spots.
Right. So we can avoid those pitfalls.
Exactly.
So far, we've covered preparing, being adaptable, knowing when to strike.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from here?
Well, now Sun Tzu is going to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And he starts talking about the importance of understanding your environment.
Okay, so understanding your environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're moving into chapters 9 and 10,
Yeah.
the Army on the March and Terrain.
The Army on the March and Terrain.
Okay, these are all about how to use the landscape to your advantage.
Okay, so this is where the actual, like, battlefield stuff comes in.
Yeah.
Marching formations, choosing campsites, that sort of thing.
It is, but it's also, I think there's a deeper layer here too,
Right.
because Sun Tzu's not just talking about physical terrain.
Okay.
He's talking about understanding the lay of the land in any situation.
So, like, knowing the power dynamics in a company.
Exactly.
Or the unspoken rules of a social group.
Yes. This culture of a place.
Yeah.
The
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 vibe.
vibe, yeah.
Okay.
So he talks about all these different types of terrain.
Okay.
Accessible ground entangling, ground temporizing ground, narrow passes, precipitous heights.
Okay. That's a lot of ground to cover.
It is a lot of ground to cover.
And these aren't just literal landscapes, are they?
No.
They're metaphors.
They're metaphors for the situations that we find ourselves in.
So give me an example, like, what would be entangling ground?
Okay, so entangling ground, that might be a project
Look.
where you're stuck in endless bureaucracy.
Oh, yeah. Been there.
Right. Or, a relationship that's just full of drama.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
So a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, a lot of things to kind of untangle.
Okay. And then what about precipitous heights?
Okay, precipitous heights, that might be a high-stakes negotiation
Okay.
where one wrong move could send you tumbling down.
So like a very important deal.
Yeah.
Or a big presentation.
Exactly.
I like this.
Right.
Yeah.
So just as a general would adapt their tactics to different types of terrain,
Right.
Sun Tzu encourages us to recognize the opportunities and constraints of
Right.
each situation.
So if you're in that entangling ground,
Yeah.
you might need to be more patient,
Mm-hmm.
more strategic.
Build alliances,
Right.
find ways to kind of navigate that red tape. Whereas on precipitous heights,
Yeah.
you might need to be bolder,
Bolder.
okay?
More decisive.
So very different approaches.
Very different approaches depending on the terrain.
I love how he uses these military examples to illustrate these broader principles.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the concepts really stick in your mind.
He's a great storyteller.
Yeah.
He really brings these ideas to life.
And he tells these fascinating stories about historical figures
He does.
navigating tricky terrains,
Mm-hmm.
like Hannibal crossing the Alps with his elephants.
Yes.
Talk about challenging terrain.
I mean, can you imagine
Yeah.
trying to get elephants over the Alps?
That was a legendary feat of military leadership.
It really was.
Yeah.
And, it just shows how resourcefulness
Right.
and adaptability
Yeah.
are key to overcoming obstacles.
Absolutely, whether you're facing literal mountains or metaphorical ones.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're starting to get a sense of how to analyze the battlefield that we're on.
Mm-hmm.
What else does Sun Tzu tell us? Well, chapters 11 and 12 get into some pretty advanced strategy.
Okay.
So first he outlines the 9 situations.
The 9 situations.
And then these represent different battlegrounds,
Okay.
each requiring a slightly different approach.
This sounds like it could get complicated.
It can be a lot to take in.
Yeah, 9 different scenarios to prepare for.
Well, right. But the main takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all strategy.
Right.
You have to tailor your approach to the specific circumstances.
So it's like having different tools in your toolbox.
Exactly.
You wouldn't use a hammer for every job.
Right.
You choose the right tool for the situation.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's chapter 12, the use of spies.
Use of spies. Okay, now this might seem a little out there for our modern lives,
A little bit.
but it's actually all about information gathering.
It is.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does ancient espionage relate to, like, my daily life?
Well, think about it this way. Sun Tzu breaks down all these different types of spies.
Okay.
Local spies, inward spies, converted spies, doomed spies, surviving spies.
Wow.
And each serves a different purpose in gathering intel.
Okay.
Right.
So he had a whole system
He had a whole system
for spying.
for espionage.
Wow. And in the modern world, this translates to research.
Yes.
Market analysis, networking.
Market information.
Yeah.
Understanding your landscape.
Before you make a move.
Before you make a move, exactly.
So you wouldn't launch a product without knowing your target market.
Right.
Right.
You wouldn't enter a negotiation without understanding the other person's motivations.
Right. Preparation is key.
Preparation is key. Sun Tzu is really hammering that point home
Throughout this book.
throughout the book.
Absolutely. And finally, we get to chapter 13, the attack by fire.
The attack by fire.
This one is a bit more symbolic, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So is he talking about literal fire?
Well, he does discuss actual fire attacks,
Okay.
but it's also a metaphor for decisive action. So think of it as the moment when you have to take a calculated risk.
Okay. So like burning your bridges
Yes.
to commit to a new path or launching a product, even if it's not perfect.
Exactly. Sometimes you just got to go for it,
Yeah.
right?
Take that leap of faith.
It's about knowing when to apply that focused burst of energy
By
to
skill.
achieve a breakthrough.
I'm really starting to appreciate how the art of war goes so much deeper than just military strategy. It's like a philosophy of action.
It is a philosophy for life.
Yeah,
And that's why it's resonated with people for so long.
absolutely.
You know, whether you're a CEO, a creative artist, or just someone trying to navigate life's challenges,
Mm-hmm.
Sun Tzu's insights can help you
Yeah.
make smarter choices.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
but it feels like we've only scratched the surface of this book.
No, yeah.
There's so much more to unpack.
There is.
So much depth.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is amazing how much wisdom is packed into this book, The Art of War.
I know, it's incredible.
Uh.
We've talked about everything from planning and preparation to adaptability and deception, and it's clear that this is so much more than just a military manual.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It's really a guide to strategic thinking, problem solving,
Right.
and ultimately to understanding human nature.
Yeah, one of the things that really struck me throughout our discussion
Yeah.
is how much Sun Tzu emphasizes knowing yourself and your opponent.
Yes.
It's not just about brute force, it's about using your intellect and understanding the psychology of the situation.
Absolutely. He constantly reminds us to assess our strengths and weaknesses, to anticipate the enemy's moves, and to adapt our strategies accordingly.
Right.
It's about being mentally agile
Yeah.
and outmaneuvering your opponent, not just overpowering them.
It's like a game of chess
Yes.
where you're always thinking a few steps ahead,
Mhm.
trying to anticipate your opponent's next move.
Exactly. And just like in chess,
Yeah.
in life, we need to be aware of our own limitations and biases. You know, Sun Tzu warns against things like recklessness, cowardice, and overconfidence.
Okay, yeah.
These are all traits that can cloud our judgment and lead to poor decisions.
So it's about having a clear head, a realistic assessment of the situation, and a willingness to adjust our plans when necessary.
Exactly. Be ready to pivot.
Be ready to pivot.
Yeah. When things change.
And that ties into another key theme we've touched upon, the importance of discipline.
Oh, yes. Discipline is everything.
Sun Tzu seems to believe that discipline is the foundation of any successful endeavor.
Absolutely.
Whether it's training your troops, developing a strategy, or simply sticking to a plan discipline is what separates the winners from the losers.
He talks about the importance of order obedience and a clear chain of command, but I think it goes beyond just following orders.
Yeah.
It's about having the self-control to resist temptations, to stay focused on your goals, and to persevere even when things get tough.
It's that inner strength
Yes.
and
Also,
resilience
that grit.
to keep pushing forward,
Yeah.
even when you want to give up.
Absolutely. And that kind of discipline isn't just important on the battlefield.
Right.
It's essential for achieving success in any area of life.
Yeah, whether it's building a business, mastering a new skill, or simply developing healthy habits.
Mhm. Creating good habits and sticking to them.
Absolutely. And speaking of leadership, Sun Tzu has a lot to say about what makes a great leader.
Oh, yeah. He was big on leadership.
And one of the things that he emphasizes is leading by example.
Yes, he believes that a true leader doesn't just give orders from a distance.
Right.
They inspire their followers by sharing their hardships, demonstrating courage, and showing that they're willing to put themselves on the line.
So it's about earning respect through actions, not just words.
Exactly.
Walking the walk,
Walking the walk, yeah.
not just talking the talk.
And that kind of leadership isn't just about being tough or demanding.
Well,
It's also about being compassionate and understanding and putting the needs of your team above your own,
caring about your people.
caring about your people, creating that culture of trust.
Yeah. And mutual respect,
Absolutely.
where everyone feels valued
Yeah.
and motivated to contribute.
And that's something that resonates with leaders in all fields.
Yeah, business, politics, education,
Yeah.
the arts.
It's a universal principle
It is.
of good leadership.
Well, Sophia, this has been an incredible deep dive into the art of war.
I agree.
I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of this ancient text,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm already thinking about how I can apply these principles to my own life.
Me too. It's so powerful.
It is so powerful. And for our listeners out there, if you're feeling inspired to explore the art of war for yourself,
Yeah.
we highly recommend checking out your local library or bookstore.
Absolutely.
And don't forget to subscribe to Motivation Library for more deep dives into fascinating and thought-provoking books.
We've got so much great content coming up.
We do.
So hit that notification bell so you don't miss out.
And as always, we love hearing from our viewers.
Yes.
Leave a comment below and tell us what resonated with you most from our discussion of the art of war.
And if there's a book you'd love us to deep dive into,
Yeah.
let us know. We're always looking for new recommendations.
So until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep strategizing your way to a more fulfilling and successful life.
And remember, as Sun Tzu wisely said, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. So go out there and achieve your goals with grace, wisdom, and a touch of strategic brilliance.